On a quest to find the greatest superhero movie ever made, I've pitted them all against each other in a March Madness-style tournament bracket. For each matchup, some friends and I watch both films back to back, discuss the merits of each, argue about which one is better, and vote on the film that should move on to the next round. 128 films, covering 6 decades of cinema, and only one can be champion. Welcome to Superhero Movie Madness. The full tournament bracket, as well as the video explaining its creation, are linked in the description below this video. This episode's matchup is the New Mutants versus Captain America: The First Avenger. The following discussion is immediately after watching these two films. Oh, apparently I started recording before I started testing the audio, so we're rolling, baby. So we watched a couple of movies tonight. Captain America: The First Avenger.
Perfectly decent movie.
It's a movie. It's a movie, guys.
It's an okay movie. It was fun. A lot of people died in graphic ways, which doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah,
It's a lot more graphic than I remember.
Guys. I think the biggest, I think the most shocking death for me, if we're comparing it to the fact that
was the man disintegrated by a propeller?
Yes,
that's my number one.
Yeah, and it's not just that he was
thrown into the plane propeller.
It's not just that he was disintegrated by the propeller. It's that you saw the mist of blood and viscera.
I feel like often when we get the propeller scene, it's like a cutaway shot.
Yes.
You don't usually see it.
Like it was in the Incredibles.
Slide.
You can really tell that this one was before Disney bought Marvel.
Yeah.
Even more so than Iron Man 1.
Yeah. That would not fly today.
And it was awesome.
And it's like, it was fucking great.
I loved how many Nazis Captain America graphically and violently ended. I just thought it was great.
He did do that.
I think that we should have more violent Nazi death on screen.
Yeah.
In modern movies.
I like when he kicked a man so hard in the chest that he flew back 20 feet, and we were just like, that man's dead.
Yeah. I will say
that man no longer has a rib cage.
Some of my favorite things about the massive fight and battle scenes in the first Avenger are, and this is true of any well choreographed fight scene in a superhero movie specifically, is that you'll have some cool special moves, right? He's banging his shield off people, he's launching people through the air with his super strength, and then every now and again he just fucking decks a guy and the guy just drops it's a normal but very good punch. And I love that. I love the juxtaposition between Steve Rogers just decking a guy and him collapsing flat out on the ground, with him launching a guy onto a tank at Mach 1,
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Score was really great and in a noticeable way. I feel like the music played a big role. A lot of really good actors that were well cast in the film. There was a bunch of not great German accents, though, I will say. And it was small,
inconsistent German accents.
It was
from different actors on the same set.
It was small roles, so I'm like, why didn't they just get some German people? I don't understand.
And this
You're telling me there's nobody with a German accent in Hollywood.
It's this is a complaint about the film industry in general, but I think that if you are casting a character that has an accent, you should either hire someone who has that accent or hire someone who knows how to do that accent.
Yeah.
And somehow neither of those things ever happen.
Not once tonight.
Not once tonight.
No.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say some things when we get
no,
okay, well, they did
We're not
hire
there yet.
the actress for Agent Carter is British, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also Hugo
so
Weaving
one
is
person with that
not
accent.
German, and his accent, I mean, I'm not German, but his accent sounded believable to me.
Hugo Weaving, you said
Yeah.
it?
That's what I mean. Because I'm not the fucking person to tell you that is a very accurate German accent, but there were a lot of them that didn't sound believable, and his did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't, as a non-German person, it doesn't take me out of the movie like some of the other ones did, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not German as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. And like, you know,
He's
even
Elvish,
even
I think.
the accents
Thank
that
you.
were questionable were not like horrible.
They weren't horrendous.
You know?
Continuing on Captain America the First Avenger, I thought it was a nice origin story for the character. You know, they did like the periodness of it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was an origin story that properly set up another movie because they knew they were going to make at least one more with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Had a full story arc with a multiple act structure.
Right, within itself.
And like used CG in a way that wasn't just putting it on screen all the time for every major scene. What this is coming down to is fuck Man of Steel.
Yes. The other thing is it did a lot of those things that we took for granted back then. Like having, you know, characters and arcs and
I guess
Plot
so.
lines,
Can I go back to, I forget who said that they did the like periodness of it well.
Yeah, go for it.
Which is not a term, but it's something that we remarked on, or that I remarked on, and people agreed with me. A few times when we were watching it, is like the costuming.
Yeah.
Is really, really good. And like, I'm not someone who's like an expert in like historical costuming. I'm someone who really likes the aesthetics of the like war era, so like the 40s, you know? And it felt very believable to me that it was happening in the 40s, which is always nice.
The use of
and then
color,
also the USO girl costumes were beautiful.
Yeah, the use of color was very good.
Yeah.
Because the majority of the movie was pretty muted, except for like the Captain America shows, which were supposed to be a show, and also the glowing of the sci-fi weapons. Specifically to offset them from the movie that was like kind of in sepia the whole time. Because the black and white movies of the 40s.
Right.
At least I'm assuming that's why they did it that way, and not just because you know, media came out in brown then, like Fallout New Vegas.
Hey, Fallout New Vegas was great, okay?
It was also very brown.
It was a desert, Ben.
People like color, it keeps them happy. Anyway, New Vegas was very brown.
And very good.
Of this movie, except for an amount of this movie wherein it was thematically important.
Yeah. This film has a lot going for it.
Yeah,
it does. It's got a lot going on, and none of it felt bad. Except for where Bucky lived. Except for certain scenes with the Chris Evans head on a little body. Some of them held up. Some of those scenes held up really well, and some of them did not.
One particular scene very early in the film when they're in the auditorium, and you've got, you know, Chris Evans' tiny body, Chris Evans' head, and he's got like a little hand in frame, and it's just the size of the hand compared to the head is like really giving like creators on TikTok that use the baby hands. A trend. Like, it's just like, oh, I've got a baby hand. I'm Chris Evans. Hey, would you shut up? Like that, you know, it's great.
So all around, we enjoyed Captain America, the First Avenger.
Yeah.
It's safe to say.
Star-Spangled Man with a plan.
Which unfortunately segues into our second film, Fantastic 2.
No, Fan-4-Stick, you mean.
What do we call it? Supernatural Breakfast Club?
I want to say, I just got a quite literal, like, stomach ache.
Oh, I don't even know where to begin with the New Mutants.
To that. Just like the film
40
does.
seconds in is our first microaggression.
And the 40 seconds before that are the logos.
Yeah, literally as soon as the film starts, it's like, hey, all Native Americans are a monolith, right?
Yes.
And also they all believe that two wolves story, but it's bears.
Inside you, there are two bears.
One of them is gay.
The other one is gay, but evil.
All right. So, which
it turns out she's gay.
actually, hold on. I just considered that what if the two gay bears is actually an analogy for Professor X and Magneto.
Maybe.
Oh,
okay, no.
shit.
So the movie starts out with our
Which one are they feeding?
with our main character being like, "All right, hey, there's a Native American legend about these two bears. One of them's an evil bear, and the other one's a good bear." And like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's how the movie starts. And
That's giving it too much credit.
I'm doing a little tiny bit of summarizing because I don't think anyone's ever watched this film before tonight.
We took one for the
Good for
team,
them.
and by the team,
Good
we
Yeah.
mean
for them.
humanity.
I will say, to start out, I cannot recommend you don't watch this film strongly enough. Like,
Yeah.
like it's not like
Yeah.
a fun bad. It's an unfun bad. Like
yeah.
the film, like
Fuck.
it's attempting to like deal with like trauma and stuff, but it does it
It's attempting to
so
deal with so
poorly and with such a lack of grace and subtlety that it's less like it's, you know, attempting to like deal with trauma and get some kind of message out of it, and more like it's trying to say like, bro, traumas happen, right? Isn't that crazy?
It's
Yeah,
very
it
was,
explicitly using, like, it's using the trauma as a plot point, which in and of itself is not
It's not
bad thing to
necessarily
do,
bad,
like,
yeah.
inherently.
Yeah.
But because of the, like, they're only using it as a plot point, and it's not handled with any, like, poise or grace.
But
It's
yeah.
not
Yeah.
handled with any of the, like, sensitivity that type of material requires, especially considering what the trauma is.
Yeah, and
You
I
know,
think
like,
Yeah.
I think
It
in
made
this
me think
convo
about
we probably won't talk about the specifics of the traumas very
No, we
much,
will
but they might be
not.
mentioned. So yeah, Alyssa, if you want to.
potential content warnings. I mean, like trauma generally, PTSD specifically in flashbacks, potentially suicide, murder.
Okay, I mean it's a
Racism?
superhero movie. Murder's gonna happen.
Racism. Also,
Racism,
a lot of
sexism.
racism.
Probably-
CSA.
trauma,
Yeah,
religious
probably
trauma.
CSA.
Whoever's listening to
both.
this should not watch the film. It's
No,
very
Absolutely
bad.
not.
The
Yeah.
further we got into the film, I found myself able to enjoy some scenes.
Yeah,
which
you
is
started to
you know,
develop
like,
Stockholm
Just fight
syndrome.
scenes.
Yes, I think I did a little bit. I wouldn't say it was a good movie by any stretch, but I will say I think I had more, at least like moderate enjoyment than I did watching Man of Steel.
So
And I think it's just the
But
fight
it was-
scenes.
Oh yeah, like
Like it's
I
just
think,
a girl with a sword that maybe did it for you. and I think
it
that's-
may have
I
been just
think
the
that
girl
it's
with the sword that did
Specifically,
it for me.
Anya
I think
Taylor-Joy
that's-
with a sword that did it for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that did it for me a little bit. But I will say I see what this movie tried to do,
it just
and
failed.
I like what this movie tried to do, and I wish that they had done it.
It reminds
You
me
know?
of the stories when 13 Reasons Why first came out, of like them saying they were so responsible and had like
Right.
psychologists consult, but in reality what they did was exactly the opposite of what those consultants told them to do.
Yeah.
It's trauma
And
porn.
also, real quick,
Yes,
I
yes,
just
it
want to
is
say,
exactly that.
when Evie was saying she enjoyed the fight scenes, they're not like good. They're also
No.
bad like the rest of the
No.
movie. It's just
It's
that
just,
something
you know.
is happening on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it
just
reached
that
a
they're
point
Eddie.
where there were things that, we could laugh at and,
Yeah.
like, just get, like,
I
some
also-
entertainment
Listen,
out
Eddie.
of.
Yeah.
There are 2 gay bears, and Evie is at least one of them.
Yeah.
I am not a gay bear.
So
I
Anya Taylor-Joy is in
think
this
has no
film.
weight.
I think that she probably could do well in a superhero movie because
Yeah.
like she's pretty decent at delivering one-liners, and I know that
Yeah.
because that's the only thing her character did.
Yeah.
Was be a bully
I-
and deliver one-liners.
I wish they
Yeah.
didn't make her say a bunch of racist stuff and also give her a bad Russian accent.
Yeah.
I think if they hadn't done those things, she would have been a better character.
It's
I
also
very much like the concept of that character.
The film, it's
unsurprisingly, she turns in probably the best performance.
And it's also
Yeah.
kind of bad.
Yeah.
Wait, so all these kids with mutant powers, this is an X-Men movie, by the way. All these kids with mutant powers are locked up in what they're being told is a hospital, but like super clearly isn't, and they all know it isn't. And then there's this point like near the end of the movie where they're like, I don't think this is a hospital. And it's like, guys, you
Yeah, no shit.
Quite literally
hey, which version of the script is that line from?
Yeah, like
yeah, I mean,
this does feel like a Frankenstein together movie.
Yeah. Well, like considering how
really
much
does.
time passed between when the film was supposed to come out and the film coming out, I'm sure that there were like quite a few like rewrites and retooling, contributes to the disjointedness. And I think that, there's definitely like an air that it was kind of just like slapped together.
Yeah.
That like it reached a point where they had been working on it for too long and they're like, we just gotta put something out.
But
it's not an attitude you can take towards a major motion picture.
I know that.
But it even does the thing like the Suicide Squad does, where it doesn't like set up or develop most of the characters, and it doesn't set up their like relationships with each other or their dynamic, and then just suddenly there's a scene right before the third act where it's like, and now we're all friends.
Yep.
It's so weird, like how similar
tried
it is.
To set up Sam and Roberto as friends, as established friends.
Yeah.
Well, like they
like
had real conversations and they like had a back and forth instead of just being rude to each other.
Yeah, but it's weird because the first scene they share together, it's almost like they're meeting for the first time, even though they're both supposed to have been here a while.
They're all supposed to have been there a while.
And then a later scene, they're just friends now. And we don't see that come into being.
I mean, we don't really see that happen with any characters except Danny and Rain.
Right.
And even then, we only get like 2 or 3 scenes.
Yeah.
We'll say one thing in the movie's favor. They didn't kill either of the gay girls.
Yeah,
yes.
I was shocked.
Yeah, they didn't even kill.
Shocking.
They didn't even kill the gay bear.
I was especially
didn't
shocked.
kill the gay bear either.
I was especially shocked that they didn't kill gays because of the prominence of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and specifically the first gay kiss ever on network television between Willow and Tara.
Yeah, they kept showing.
And spoilers for a show from 1997, Tara dies.
They keep showing the one character watching episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's why it's relevant.
Just trying to draw a parallel between Ileana and Buffy. Is that it?
Yes.
Is that the whole purpose of those?
Maybe?
Well, no.
Is that she kills things?
No. There's just a very.
I don't think so because of the episodes that were shown. There are better.
There's very loose connections in that the smiling men who are like Ileana's like trauma and like greatest fear look like the gentleman from Hush.
Yeah.
And then also,
let's be clear, they look like Doug Jones.
Yes.
Yes, and they look specifically like Doug Jones.
I think it's just that very surface level thing. I don't think they were trying to connect this film with that episode of Buffy or Buffy as a whole, like thematically. And then the other connection is that we see the scene from an episode where the 2 lesbian characters kiss. And then there's 2 lesbian characters in this movie. I think it's the most surface level shit. And this was a Fox film, and I guess Fox owns the rights to Buffy. I don't know what.
Fox does in fact own.
I don't know what
Buffy.
network Buffy came out on. I was a baby.
I think what I'll say is that the saddest thing about this film is that you can watch its potential slip down the drain in real time. Because like with all of the
it starts off
40 seconds in, Evie.
No. I know it starts off bad, but we've established that voiceover is likely an afterthought.
Yes.
And it's terrible. But my point is that there are a number of scenes where you can see so clearly what they're trying to do and what they're trying to illustrate with these kids, like trauma bonding and like the experiences that they're having. And then you watch them just not do it right. like over and over and over again.
It makes me wonder, because it's weird that like this would be like the idea for the film from like the higher ups, and then they would hire some hack to write a bad script for it.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, like, did this movie start out as a good script that then got rewritten into being shitty?
Right.
I mean, that's certainly possible.
Yeah, especially because we've said a few times that it's very like Frankenstein's together, and like to make some like parallels to other movies. Like there's very much a Fantastic Four, Suicide Squad type team up movie happening that also establishes the team. There's also
one of the reasons that the movie was delayed was because it was being produced during Disney's acquisition of Fox. So that certainly may have contributed to a huge drop in quality.
This movie was not supposed to be PG-13.
It's possible it was supposed to be R, yeah.
This movie was supposed to be rated R. And was supposed to be.
So
I will say more.
Actually, other shit happening.
More blood and gore would not have made it a better film, because there's huge scripting issues.
Like, right, but they could have cut out a lot of discussions about trauma and stuff that they like couldn't.
Maybe.
That's my guess.
Though this film was still released like under like the Fox banner. It was like, so it's not like a Disney movie, you know, but yeah, like they could have maybe had some kind of say. They stick their thumb in
every pie they can see.
Do we think this is the worst thing we've watched so far?
No, I would highly encourage you guys to read the Wikipedia article for this film.
Yeah.
Because it goes into like the exact like reasons that the movie like was rewritten and had all these problems, and they actually explicitly compare it to Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I mean, Ben said it right at the start.
I resent Eddie for making me watch Fantastic Four twice in the span of a month.
Yeah.
Anyway, I definitely encourage you to read the Wikipedia article if you have the time. I just skimmed it, and it's very interesting. But yeah, I definitely see this movie as a film that wanted to be good and was just not allowed to be.
Here's something. I may have missed it. This is kind of unrelated. But how did the bear happen the first time?
It's just,
I guess she was just sleeping. Yeah.
It just happened.
She just had a nightmare, maybe.
It may well have just been the first manifestation of her powers.
Yeah, but then also manifests nightmares into the real world. So I think she was having a nightmare about this scary legend her dad told her, and that
as a child when she was 16.
Yeah.
It's a little odd. Also, how did everyone in town know about it before her?
Hey, you know what's wild?
Yeah.
We don't know the mechanics behind any of the powers in the film.
Yeah.
Not a single one of them. Not even the very simple one where one of the characters turns into a wolf. Because sometimes she turns into a whole wolf and sometimes a part wolf, and sometimes she seems to be able to go back and forth at will.
We don't even know the mechanics of the guy that just is the Human Torch.
Right.
This is also true. And
also, how come in
the
like climactic fight when he activated his powers, he was just all like black and charred instead of being on fire? What was up with that? Like,
it was just
did they not finish the visual effects?
Certainly possible.
How did he go from activating his power every time he got a boner to being able to control it in like the span of a day?
Yeah, everyone just suddenly is really good at controlling their powers. Also, they don't address the fact that Ileana really wants to like escape the facility and can teleport and just doesn't leave.
Right.
Yeah.
She has a whole other. She can go to just another dimension and just be in another place.
Yeah,
but like we see that she can go in there
and see portals
and then pop out not where she entered.
Yeah.
Like she could go in there on one side of a room and pop out on the other side of the room.
Is they could have very easily done it of like as soon as we know she can portal, find out that she can't portal through those stupid force fields.
For some reason.
Right. They could give us like a scene of her trying to do that and getting stopped by the force field.
Like she just has to physically, even if it's in another dimension, she'd have to physically be able to go to that place to be able to teleport there, right?
But
also,
this is
she
what I'm
like could have run away as a kid.
This is what I'm talking about.
Also.
We don't know the mechanics of any of the powers showcased in the film. Even
Nothing.
the force field thing, which you would think, oh, force field's so simple, right? But then you're watching it, and there's this whole scene where it's like, oh, the rain can't get through, and it's like, wait, can the air?
How does the lawn get water?
Why is the grass green? Like
Yeah.
So
does anyone have final thoughts on the New Mutants?
I do.
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would.
I hated it way more than I thought I would.
Same. Alyssa?
I thought this was going to be like a mediocre movie.
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. But that's primarily because I like started trying to read Buffy as an intertext. It didn't work because it's not. But I do want to share something because I have been skimming this Wikipedia article on Evie's recommendation, and there are 3 films cited as like the influence for this movie during filming. So after the script was written. No.
Suicide Squad?
So it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yikes. Okay.
Breakfast Club and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors.
Oh, so
We mentioned.
I almost forgot to talk about this because this was something I said before we started recording. It's really weird to me that for a film whose premise is nearly identical to Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, that they don't reference it a single time, and they also don't seem to like have learned from any of the things it did very correctly.
That's a great movie.
I think it's really good. Yeah.
I really like Dream Warrior.
Bro, Kincaid, man. Kincaid is like Ileana, but done correctly. Because at the beginning of the movie, he's this big asshole, and you hate him. And then by the end of the movie, when he's kicking Freddy Krueger's ass, you're like, get him, Kincaid, yeah! Like,
yeah. Well, you can definitely do it.
Because he has like an arc where he learns to not be an a-hole, and he makes friends, and he has a character that grows and develops.
That is the biggest thing that's missing
in Nightmare on Elm Street
film.
3.
Dream Warriors, yeah. Hey, Wes Craven's pretty good, man.
But that's the biggest thing that this film was missing was
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, it was Freddy Krueger.
No, that's what the bear was.
Just, like, any character arcs. Like, I think if these characters had been given, like, because you see the growth that they're trying to establish. I think if they had actually shown some of that to us on screen, it would have been a better film.
It's also
I'm
like,
not saying that
imagine.
I wanted to watch.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not saying that I wanted to watch this film for longer, but it clearly was not supposed to be an hour and a half.
Yeah. It's also like the film is kind of like the opposite of what you would imagine this story should be. Like, because wouldn't it be like more interesting if like when Danny arrives, everyone except maybe one character, maybe Ileana's a dick, right? If everyone was like nice and welcoming and friendly, but then the longer she's there and everyone's having these crazy, vivid, realistic nightmares because of her power, everyone starts to get really on edge, and they're arguing with each other and fighting, and like it's like chaos because no one's getting sleep and everyone's stressed and afraid, right? And then they have to like reunite, right? And like learn and grow from each other to get over their fears, and like that would be like a story, right? Like,
and then it would be so much more compelling when they find out that Danny is the cause of it. Then there could actually be a conflict there instead of just, they've realized that the doctor is their enemy, and so
which they knew literally
care.
the whole time.
They knew the whole time. She's their warden.
Right, and so they don't care suddenly that Danny is causing all their nightmares because, well, it's Dr. Reyes that said it, and we don't listen to her. It's like if they had shown like them, overcoming their differences and like growing as characters together, and then they were like pitted against each other, that would be a more compelling story.
Like, they should have all been against Dr. Reyes from the start. And that would have been way more interesting because then Dr. Reyes can try to have Danny on her side because Danny doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is Dr. Reyes could be,
because she needs to learn that, authority figures are not people to
always
be trusted,
good.
like the one that branded her.
And Dr. Reyes could be counting on all of them like being stressed and anxious and infighting, right? To keep them under control and keep manipulating them. So then when they help each other to grow and overcome their fears and work together, then they break out of her control, her mental manipulation, and also her physical control, the force fields that she uses to keep them down. There could be like metaphors and themes and shit. And instead we got poo-poo. We got poo-poo right on the screen.
This is just like the last season of Game of Thrones.
There was also
even fucking Maisie Williams is in it.
Yeah, exactly. There's wolves and everything.
No, there were no wolves in the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they couldn't afford the CG, dude.
Yeah.
And the dragon question mark? And
there was a dragon, yeah.
There's a dragon.
There was briefly a
dragon.
All right, so
puppet.
This is perfect.
There's a dragon that is a puppet the entire movie except for one scene where it's a real dragon.
Yeah, it's very strange.
They don't explain it at all.
So that's the perfect way to describe this movie. It's like if you only watched season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's like
Can
that.
I go back to Dr. Reyes for a minute?
Yeah, I guess so. Jeez.
No, because so kind of in keeping with the like, there is a good movie in here somewhere thing, because there is a moment right before Dr. Reyes dies where like
spoilers, Dr. Reyes dies.
Oh yeah, dude, she super dies.
It's very heavily implied
by the gay bear.
It's very heavily implied that she was raised in the like, prison that Essex Corp was running, and that she too has been like manipulated.
Oh, I missed that totally.
Yeah,
it's not okay. It's not very
the
heavily
time that we got that flashback to the training.
She keeps
of the,
just talking
of the
about
younger
her
mutants.
shit.
It was from her.
Oh,
and that was her.
Yeah.
Trauma.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they, again, with
and
Dr.
so she's
Reyes,
perpetuating it for some reason.
What'd you say?
That's a very common thing.
Yeah, well, I guess she's been manipulated the way she's learned to manipulate these kids,
sure.
right?
Yeah, and
they just didn't make it very clear what was going on.
Yeah, in that last scene with her, I was able to kind of put 2 and 2 together of like, you know, oh, she's got Stockholm syndrome. She's working for the people who traumatized her. There's like a lot of potential for a good movie in here.
Okay, guys, here's the ending of the good version of the movie. Okay, are you ready for this shit? So they go to like, you know, we're getting out of here, right? And Dr. Reyes, right, is like ready to like fight them and stuff, right? But they defeat Dr. Reyes not with violence, but with compassion, because Dr. Reyes is, you know, also, you know, been a part of this whole system and affected by it negatively, right?
Yeah, when she's told to murder one of her charges, she could have said no.
No. So what I'm saying is we don't have that scene where she tries to murder a child, right? You know, or maybe if we do have to have that scene, right? Maybe she doesn't want to do it and she's conflicted, but like the cameras all over the place, they're not just her eyes and ears, they're also the eyes and ears of the people in charge of her, right? So maybe she feels like she has to do it. Okay, anyway, they defeat Dr. Reyes not with violence, but with compassion. And she drops the force field, she lets him go, right? They're walking out of the place. You're like, wow, that's a, you know, weird ending to this superhero movie. There's not a big action scene. But there is, because who shows up but the, like, you know, faceless, nameless soldiers of the Essex Corporation to put this shit back in line, right? And so these teens are fighting these guys. Maybe they got some evil mutants on their side, right? And they're like, oh no, we're not going to get out of here. But then who comes walking out of the building? That's right, Dr. Reyes. Puts up a big force field around the enemies, and she's like, get out of here, go! We don't even know what happens to Dr. Reyes in the end, you know? That's the ending of the good version.
Fix the movie, bro.
And there's no bear.
So here's the thing, is that inside of you there are 2 bears. One of them is a bad movie. The other one is also a bad movie. You're a bad movie.
God, it's amazing that they did that there are 2 bears shit twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both times it was not the Aesop. It just wasn't the theme of the story.
Yes.
No.
It was not.
Because here it's at the end, right? It's supposed to be like the finishing of the story, I guess. Where she adds like which bear wins, it's the one that you feed. right? Which, like, fine.
There was
but that's
only
not
ever
how her
one
power,
bear.
There was
well, it's
just
also
one.
not how her power works. It's not like it gets worse the more you're scared. That has nothing to do with it. They can physically take out the fears, and that works. Right? Like, that's what we saw with
all
the
of the smiling men
dudes,
were
is
physically murdered.
they just cut them to pieces, right? And, like, what's his face? The
Rocket
Human
Boy?
Torch number 2,
Oh.
they just pushed him in a pool.
Yeah.
So that's not the moral.
His fear had already disappeared because her powers weren't doing
Not
that
only
yet.
is
They
it
were
not
just
the
showing
moral of
people
the
things.
story. Yeah, not only is it
and
not
it's
the moral of the story, it's also not how her power works.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other
Which
thing
they could have
too
made it
is
how her
like
power works. That'd be cool. I'd be
so
down
Like,
for that.
they
The more
had a
scared you are,
scene
the,
where
like,
they explained the bear
worse it gets.
and how
wait.
they had a scene where they explained the bear, and the bear was about facing your fears. That's it. It was that you can control what's inside you. These things grow, but you have control over them. And then at the end,
the bear
she
didn't
controlled
grow.
her fears by facing it, like by very physically facing it and accepting it as part of her.
She had her little Moana
And then they
moment.
said the two bears shit again.
And the other thing too, can we just say like, okay, so
And then instead of playing Don't You Forget About Me, the credits rolled.
yeah. So I just want to say too, right? Like, cause her dad dies at the onset of the story, right? Killed by the gay bear, right?
Yeah.
And so you're telling me that like right, based on the voiceover, the lesson that we're supposed to take away from it, right? That helped her to defeat the bear is something her dad taught her. And what, she just like was like, nah, that's fucking stupid, Dad, until this movie happened. Like,
yeah, that's
that
why
didn't
she wore the totem that was specifically to remind her about it being
that
fire.
didn't seem like part of her character. I'm gonna be honest, it didn't seem like part of it was my dad was wrong and dumb. It kind of seemed like part of her character was my dad was awesome and great.
Yeah.
So like the voiceover just like it fucks
Deepens
the
everything.
little
Even
bit
in
of
that-
theme that is in the film. Like,
Even in that, they could have had her dad, like, a scene of her as a kid and her being scared and her dad, like, giving her some, you know, the totem or, like, some thing to say instead of her repeating what Dr. Reyes said.
oh God,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
fuck,
Like,
I
they could've
forgot
just had
about
her
that.
They could have just had her dad have something that's like, and whenever you're scared, you know, just touch the bear totem and you'll know that I'm watching over you, some shit like that, right? And then at the end she does that instead of repeating the weird meditation control thing from her quite literal captor and abuser who tried to murder her like a day ago. I don't understand.
Not even like an hour and a half.
Not even a day ago.
So,
like an hour.
Given that the
Like
bear like killed everyone and everything she ever knew and loved, I can understand it being her biggest fear after the movie begins. But why was it her biggest fear before the movie begins?
Listen, that's what I was saying. None of it makes sense.
Like, why wasn't her biggest fear like getting picked on at school or something?
Yeah,
like,
I don't think that the bear was originally her biggest fear. I think it was just a crystallization because that's what she had been told as a child, or at least it could have been.
Well,
had the movie done anything.
Well, like,
so you're telling me that like
had it done
so
anything?
The character outside of the movie, like in a broad sense, manifests nightmares. She's not manifesting fears.
Right.
She's Freddy Krueger.
It just happens to be that most people's fears are their nightmares. Yes,
exactly.
So like, does someone have to be asleep or?
No. Well,
no, because
No, I'm talking about because Evie's talking about the like character from like the comics or something. I'm presuming.
Right, like because it's not like, all right, so it's not like, you know, like their active like current nightmare. Like it is fears, but it's not like, oh, your biggest fear. Like it's not like a Bogart, you know?
Yeah.
It's not Art of a Swamp.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's she's not painting swamps. She's manifesting nightmares.
I've noticed that we talk a lot longer about the films we dislike.
I mean, yeah,
there's a lot more to say.
Because it's really
There's a lot more to say, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we said a lot of the praise of Captain America. I mean, like, I could say, I don't know. Let me think of some problems with Captain America: The First. I mean, we said the CG thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
the Howling
the
Commandos. I wish
tiny
they had
body.
been characterized more.
Yeah.
Because they kind of mostly they weren't at all, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think those
that-
actors
went to
were
college.
giving like an effort to have character, but like just the script
Yeah,
didn't
because they
give them
assumed
any.
they'd be in more movies.
I think that Steve's motorcycle should have had more of a character arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just
like,
it was a
it just, like,
motorcycle, and then it was
showed
the Batmobile, and then it
Right,
exploded.
like it just showed up on the scene with all these sick ass gadgets, and I'm like, we couldn't have gotten like a 30-second scene of them being like, "Yo, Steve, we're gonna give you this sick ass bike, bro."
Yeah,
Just
like
show
they didn't do
Howard
like an
Stark
upgrade
working on it.
montage or anything.
Yeah.
It's just it was a normal motorcycle, and then when it needed to
And
be,
then it
it was
wasn't.
literally the Batmobile, and then it exploded because they didn't need it anymore.
It really did explode.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, it was also a bomb.
Oh man, I'm
yeah,
really
but I mean, there's
tired.
not a lot of like big like issues with the movie. You
No,
know,
there really
Yeah.
aren't.
there are
I
some
was trying
small
to say
ones.
we should probably vote.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Well, I know it's
Oh, I
gonna
don't
be
know.
It's
a,
gonna be a real nail biter.
it's gonna be a tough one for some people. I'm gonna have to vote for Captain America: The First Avenger.
I am also going to vote for Captain America: The First Avenger.
Me too.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who is not voting for
He's
Captain
waiting for me to
America,
vote
the
so she
First
can vote for the
Avenger?
New Mutants.
No protest votes.
No protest votes. Vote for
Be-
Captain
It's
America.
already-
I'm voting for Captain
No,
America.
no, no.
He also
If
votes for
you-
Captain America,
if
and if she
you-
says otherwise, she's lying.
If you believe that the New Mutants was better than Captain America, you can vote for it. But if you're
Also-
only voting for it because
To be
it's
contrarian.
worse, then please don't.
It's
Like,
Then
because
I know that
also-
Chris
X-Men,
broke our
and
unanimous streak.
I love the X-Men.
Don't disrespect the
This isn't the
X-Men like
X-Men.
that. Don't
It's the
disrespect the
Essex
X-Men in
Men or
this household.
something.
The Essex Men.
No, that's what
Don't
like
don't
that was the name
disrespect-
of the
don't
company
disrespect.
that was like
I
keeping
know.
these children prisoner.
You
Also-
don't get to say that that movie
Hey,
was better than
can
this
I
one.
ask
No.
a
No,
question by the way? Like,
I'll vote for Captain
so like
America.
there's like a number of like decently powerful mutants and one that's apparently really powerful, right? Concentrated in one place and having a lot of like strong episodes and emotional responses.
Yeah.
Tell me Cerebro didn't pick that shit up? Like what the
right.
fuck? Like what
I
is
mean,
going on in the
again,
X-Men universe?
again.
They make reference to Professor X
Yeah.
Right.
in
Again,
this
they
film. You
could've-
tell me he just doesn't know this is
They could
happening?
have explained shit so easily if they had taken
None
the
of them
time
are
to
wearing
explain anything.
Magneto's helmet.
Because, well, even her, we don't know how her force fields work. Maybe her force fields block psionic shit. We don't fucking know.
We have
They
no
don't tell us
idea. We don't know how
anything.
anything works.
They don't tell us anything.
Not a single thing.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
we've
Also, what else is going on in
We
the world?
voted
at
for
this time
Captain
the
America.
X-Men?
Captain America has won.
Captain America's
Maybe the
moving
X-Men
Let's
are
not think
on.
about the
really
New Mutants
busy.
ever again. Can we have a disgrace bracket?
It's moving on to round 2.
Like
I-
we've added Steel
I'm
to
dead
the
serious.
honorable
Yeah.
mentions. Can we have a disgrace bucket?
Bucket?
Yeah, it's a bucket now. They don't get to compete.
um
Is the disgrace bucket just New Mutants and Man of Steel?
It's
far.
wadded up posters for the releases of these films.
So
In the
far.
corner, it doesn't matter what's in it. They're gone now. They can't hurt us anymore.
But now there's just a bucket in the corner. Like,
so
what are you gonna do with that?
Captain
Burn it.
America, the first
They're
Avenger,
it's made of metal.
is moving on to round
Yes.
2.
Oh god.
Yes, it is.
And the New Mutants
And we can stop recording and start talking about quotes because
will
I've got a
be-
couple.
left
Oh, fuck.
behind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the outro. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you're enjoying the tournament, please subscribe to this channel for more of this same type of content. Let me know in the comments your thoughts about the New Mutants or Captain America: The First Avenger. And as a reward for making it all the way to the end of this video, here's a fun fact. The year with the most films in this tournament is 2018, with a total of 8 films.